Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to discuss the importance of the Azure Resource Tags. How would you create a meaningful deployment, and how would you create the Azure Resource Tags from the Azure portal? How would you use it from the Azure Cost Management, and many more. Ready to make the Azure Cloud your comfortable zone? Let's get started. All right, I'm in the Azure portal. So before we get started, I just wanted to show you something before we create the Azure Resource Tags. So the whole idea of, or the whole purpose of using the Azure Resource Tags is to make the deployment more meaningful. Okay, so I engage a lot with customers and I see them, they don't use this nice feature. And it end up with, when you have a deployment and I'm just asking about, let's say, a specific resource group. So as you can see here, I am giving a naming convention here, like dev virtual network resource groups in UK region. So that's mean this resource group is going to be I'm going to use virtual network or deploy virtual networks within this resource groups. So some customers just add any random names, and then they forget also to tag that resources. So tagging basically is a metadata. It's an extra information that you add so that any admin or any consultant or any person that who's going to work on your Azure environment will understand what are these resources, why you're using it, and so on. So before we create the tag, I just wanted to give you another example. If we have like kind of a code we're writing, so normally if you receive a code like this, it's really hard to understand what is actually doing. And this is just a very simple code, right? So so if there is no comments, like let's say here, maybe here, defining the Azure AI Foundry, endpoints. Okay, so now I know when I read this block of line or this block of code, I will understand, okay, this is actually about defining the API and the API keys and so on. Okay, maybe when I am defining the variables, right? So if I do integer x equal 17, so or 18, whatever, and then end up with semicolon here. It's just gonna be what is x? All right, so if I say I'm doing a asking, or let's do this better, string the first name. Okay, so here I know that this variable is gonna it's going probably to ask the user to enter his first name, okay, maybe the email address and so on. So now here, there is a meaningful variable, so I know what's going on, okay? So it is the same thing for the Azure deployment. When you are creating any resource, it's common best practice to use Azure Resource Tags. So Azure Resource Tags, basically you're gonna find it everywhere in any resource. There are some resources that doesn't support resource tags, but generally speaking, tags are always are always going to be there in every Azure service. So to create an Azure Resource Tags, let's say I'm on a specific resource group here, I can just click on it, and then under tags here. So normally you have these tabs: overview, activity logs, access control, and then tags, and then you should find it here. So under these tags, you will find me adding some examples, budget is 20K, cost center, this one created by, it's my name or maybe the team, environment is equal dev test, resource type is I'm going to deploy network, but here actually it should be resource groups. Okay, and then I can click apply. Then I will be able to just every time I open this resource group, I know, okay, I see there is these are the metadata and whom to reach out and so on. So it's kind of documentation for your Azure resources. So let's just create another example here. So I would just do rg or maybe dev dash virtual machines dash the region or RG resource groups, and then this is gonna be in UK, and then the resource 002. So here I can specify my tags also in the deployment. Let's say this is gonna be environment equal testing or dev, and I will just fill like, you know, dev created by. Notice that it loads the previous tags that I've used. So this is just the value, so it's basically key value pair. Okay, so the key is the name of the tag, and then the value, maybe here I'm just gonna do or maybe the IT group at xx.com. So tags are case sensitive, so when you are calling them from the CLI, just be careful, because if you're using capital or small, you need to make sure that you really specifying the right or it's case sensitive, so the right name that you have defined. So be careful with the capital and small and so on, and use a consistent name. Tags also are free. Okay, so it's not harmful to use tags, which makes your life much easier. So now if I get inside here, I can see that I have created these two. I can maybe delete one, or maybe I can add extra tags here. So this is also previously what I've created. So I've created, like, sometimes I write environment, or I can just type environment and then equal dev. Maybe the budget for this one, maybe this is dev test, so I will just make it like, maybe 1K. I don't want people to create more than this. And maybe resource type, this is going to be resource group. So if you're going to create a virtual machine, then you specify maybe the resource type is whatever. Maybe this virtual machine is going to be maybe resources, or used for, whatever that, there's no kind of rule here. Maybe for databases. Okay, so now I know this resource group is gonna have a virtual machines, and these virtual machines gonna contain databases. So when I review that, I'm pretty much good with this. So that's the first use of Azure Resource Tags. So what are the permissions that you need? Is basically you need a tag contributor. So either you're gonna add yourself from the Azure subscription here. You go under the activity, the RBAC or role-based access control. I will talk about this later on, but this is where you control all of the permissions. Okay, so on your administrator. So normally they come from the intra ID, where your users, groups, managed identity, and so on lives in. And then you give them permissions to your Azure subscription to be able to do actions, things like creating machines, deleting machines, or creating storage, resource groups, assigning tags, and so on. Notice here you can also tag your Azure subscription as well, but you cannot tag the Azure resource groups. So if I go back here and then try to add myself here, I'm already owner, so I have owner on this subscription, so that's why I can create tags. But normally you should find tag. If I search here, there is a tag contributor. This is the permission or the role-based access control that is required for users to assign tags. Let you manage tags on entities without providing access to the entities themselves. If you want a higher privilege, then you can just use owner or contributor, but this is like a God service basically. The other thing that I want to highlight as well, that tags are not inherited. So which means is that if I am assigning, let's say from the Azure subscription level, I'm assigning a specific here tags, it's not gonna be inherited in these resource groups unless you use Azure policy to do that. Okay, so you can see here if I click on this one, and this resource group is part of the Azure subscription. If you don't understand what is Azure subscription, you can go back to the previous videos, but you can see here it's not inherited from there. This is what we have defined so far. So that's why I just wanted to highlight and stress on this one, because it is so important. So now we just covered what are tags, what are the resource groups, how would you assign it from the subscription level, and so on. The last thing I wanted to cover or to show you here, the Azure policy. If I go under the policy definitions here, then I can just search for the policy type. So policies basically, we will talk about this so much, but this is basically an extra features that you can use to maybe block certain controls, or maybe force installing backup agents, or force install requiring tags. If you are creating a resource and you want to enforce the admins to specify tags, you can actually block resources, and then if you didn't specify tags, then you'll not be able to create Azure resources. So if I filter the the Azure, or the definitions here, or the Azure policies, we will see that there's a lot of policies about the tag, and you can see here require a tag and its value on a resource group, maybe, okay, or maybe require a tag on resources, or maybe I want to assign tags in bulk. So this is one way to use the the Azure policy to automate tagging. So you can just specify the tags, and then it will apply on all resources, whether it's from the subscription level and so on. But you can notice here there is a policy called inherit a tag from the resource group if missing. So now I can also apply inherit a tag from the subscription. So that's also exists. If I click on it, I will be able to see the JSON file, what it does. And I think this is gonna have modify. Yeah, so there's a modify permissions here. So you will know that, okay, this is gonna modify the Azure subscription, and you need to give it also a specific permission to be able to achieve that for you. But as you can see, this is the we will talk about the Azure policy later on, but I just wanted to show you that you can also use Azure policies to enforce tags or require tags and so on, or block people from creating resources without if they are trying to create a deployment or any resource, and then they forget to assign tags. Normally a lot of customers forget about this, but I would highly recommend to to use that feature. It's free, and there's nothing stopping you from there. The coolest thing as well, that you can use tags also to get a better cost management or more meaningful invoice. So a lot of customers create resources, and then when the invoice or the billing comes in, they see virtual machines, they see whatever, but some customers ask me I want to know how much in a dev environment are costing me, or maybe the production environment, or maybe the databases. So if you have these properly assigned tags, then you will be able to do that. So now you can see there's I don't have anything specifically, but you can see here resource group, no resource group name, or maybe there's something called Microsoft Defender for Cloud, but what is it for? So what I can do is here I can just choose a filter, and then say I want to filter by, and then I should be able to see here my tags. Notice if you just created the tags, you won't be able to see it immediately, because it takes around 24 hours or more just to be to show up here in the Azure Cost Management. But usually you should see them here. So you filter by the tag, and then it will show you all the resources that got maybe environment equal dev test. Okay, so you'll be able to see that as well. So even here you can see not seeing tags. If you click on this one, you will know exactly the root cause why you're not seeing this. So what we have discussed so far about this one, I will just leave the documentation here, but this is what we discussed so far. You read about resource tags, how would you use them in billing, and then there are examples in the documentation here where it will talk about when you download them on CSV, you'll see what it looks like and so on. These are the common limitations. Not every resource supports tags. Maybe the amount of tags, the amount of the length of the tag name and value. So it differs from resource to resource. This is how would you define your naming convention. It's so important to see this one. But you can see here, we used some examples. Let's just go back here, and then I click on virtual network, then tags. So again, you can delete all, you can add or remove tags, but you can see environment equal dev. If I go back to defining naming convention, this is where I use these shortcuts from Microsoft, but you can use whatever naming convention that is comfortable for you. But you can see here dev, prod, test, resource groups, VM. So when you see examples like this, maybe you could use this in your tag as well. Okay, so this is just showing you how would you name your resources, how would you use the tag name, and so on. This is the documentation so far. Like you can create the the Azure Resource Tags using Azure Portal, the Azure CLI, PowerShell, Python, Bicep, and ARM templates. Again, I'm not going to do GitHub Copilot here, but like you have seen from the last video, how would you create Azure resources using GitHub Copilot, and then I used the Bicep method. But again, you can ask Copilot to create tags using CLI or PowerShell or whatever. So that's very easy task to do. If you want to assign tags also, or assign multiple resources, or assign tags to multiple resources, you just can go back here. Let's say from the resource group blade, you can also see all resources, and then you start to assign everyone. But I can just select my resource groups here, and then I can click on assign tags. It will ask me maybe here I would like to add team IT. Okay, so at mycompany.com, and then I click save. So now it's successfully assigned tags to all of these resource groups, which makes it very, very easy to you can see here team is itmycompany.com. It's very easy to to assign or reassign, and then I can also delete all the tags from here and then click on apply. Then it will go away. If I'm also using any automation scripts, maybe Azure Automation, I would like to shut down all the resources that got dev tag, then it will just go ahead and shut down those machines using the Azure Resource Tags. So it's very, very, very useful, and I would highly recommend to use that part. I will include also all the documentation to read through the tags. And yeah, that's it for today. I hope this video was useful for you. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.